If Rick wanted obedience, I gave him a performance worthy of an award. I stopped arguing. I cooked dinner without complaint. I cleaned the house so well it practically sparkled. I even thanked him when he handed me a list of weekend chores. He mistook my silence for surrender. That was his first mistake. While Rick strutted around like the king of a kingdom he barely afforded, I started planning. Quietly, carefully. At the bookstore, I asked my manager for more hours. When he said payroll was tight, I offered to handle social media and inventory tracking. I'd learned enough from watching customers and trends to know what sold. Within weeks, sales picked up. My manager noticed. "You've got a head for business," he said one evening. "Ever think about marketing?" I smiled. All the time. Instead of depositing my paycheck into the old joint account, I opened a new one online. Paperless statements, private email, passwords Rick would never guess. Every tip, every extra dollar, went there. At home, Rick's control grew louder. He criticized how I dressed. He timed how long I stayed out. Once, he accidentally unplugged my laptop while I was finishing an online certification course I'd secretly enrolled in. "Internet bills are expensive," he said flatly. I looked at him with soft eyes and replied, "You're right. I'll be quicker next time." Inside, I was documenting everything. Dates, comments, bank withdrawals, screenshots of my old account history, copies of my acceptance letter to Ohio State, proof of my scholarship. I didn't know yet how I would use it, but I knew I would. Then came the second crack in his perfect image. Rick loved appearances. At church, he bragged about raising a disciplined daughter. At neighborhood barbecues, he spoke about responsibility and hard work. But one afternoon, while cleaning his office, I found a stack of unpaid credit card bills hidden in a drawer. Thousands of dollars in debt. Late notices, final warnings. The man who stole my savings to help with bills was drowning in his own reckless spending. And suddenly, everything made sense. He hadn't taken my money out of principle. He'd taken it out of desperation. That night at dinner, he lectured me about financial responsibility. I nodded, cutting my chicken slowly, memorizing every word. Because now I understood something powerful. Rick wasn't strong. He was scared. And scared men make careless mistakes. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to confront him. I was going to build something bigger. While he tightened his grip, I strengthened mine. And when the time came, I wouldn't just leave his house. I would expose the foundation he built it on, and make sure everyone saw exactly who he really was. By the time I turned 18, Rick thought he had won. I had stopped talking about Ohio State. I didn't mention scholarships anymore. I never argued when he criticized my attitude. To him, I was finally shaped into something manageable. What he didn't know was that I had been accepted again. This time, I applied quietly to a state university 2 hours away. I used a bookstore manager as my reference. I submitted my applications from the public library. When the acceptance email came through, I didn't cry. I felt steady. Because this wasn't hope. It was strategy. Around the same time, Rick's financial situation started unraveling faster than he could hide it. Notice of intent to file lien. The house wasn't as secure as he pretended. That's when I made my next move. At church, Rick loved giving speeches about discipline and family leadership. One Sunday, he volunteered to host a small financial stewardship seminar. The irony almost made me laugh. I offered to help him prepare slides. He hesitated, then pried one. "Good. Maybe you'll learn something." Oh, I already had. While putting together his presentation, I made sure everything was backed up onto a shared cloud account he didn't understand. The same account where I had carefully saved copies of the bank withdrawal, showing he'd emptied my college fund. The same folder where I stored photos of overdue bills and collection notices I'd quietly captured when he left them on his desk. I wasn't stealing. I was preserving evidence. The week before the seminar, Mom finally cracked. "I know about the money," she whispered one night while washing dishes. "He said it was temporary." I looked at her reflection in the window. Did he ever pay it back? Silence. That silence wasn't weakness anymore. It was confirmation. Rick's control depended on secrecy, on isolation, on making each of us believe we were alone. So I changed that. I started being warmer to Mom, stronger. I showed her the acceptance letter. I showed her my new savings balance. I didn't blame her, I showed her possibility. "You don't have to live like this," I said softly. For the first time, I saw doubt in her eyes, not toward me, toward him. Meanwhile, Rick was getting sloppy, angry, snapping at small things. His job performance slipped. One night he accused me of undermining his authority because I corrected him about a news article at dinner. He slammed his hand on the table, and in that moment, I realized something powerful. He felt it. The shift. The control was no longer absolute. The seminar was 3 days away. Rick thought it would reinforce his image as the responsible patriarch. But what he didn't know was that the very presentation he planned to use to lecture others about integrity was about to become the stage where his truth stepped into the light. And this time, I wouldn't be the quiet girl in the background. I would be the one holding the evidence. The church basement was packed. Rick stood at the front of the room beneath a banner that read, "Financial Stewardship and Family Leadership." He looked confident in his gray suit, Bible in one hand, clicker in the other. Mom sat in the second row. I sat beside her. Rick began exactly how I expected. "A strong household," he said, pacing slowly, "depends on discipline, transparency, and wise financial choices." Transparency. The word almost burned. His slideshow flicked on behind him. I had built it for him, clean design, organized charts, quotes about accountability. He nodded at me once, smug, as if he were congratulating himself for training me well. Halfway through, he clicked to the next section, but instead of the budgeting tips he expected, a bank statement filled the screen. My bank statement, $3,000 withdrawn, authorized by joint guardian, Richard Lawson. The room went silent. Rick froze. He clicked again. Another slide. Credit card statements, late notices, collection warnings. Murmurs rippled across the chairs. "What is this?" he snapped, face flushing. I stood up slowly. "You said transparency matters," I said clearly. My voice didn't shake. "So let's be transparent." Mom's hand tightened around her purse. Rick lunged for the laptop, but the cloud presentation had already synced across devices. The pastor near the back was staring at the screen, confusion turning into concern. "You stole my college savings," I continued. "You told everyone it was for bills, but the house wasn't in danger. Your spending was." Gasps. Rick's voice rose. "She's lying. She's ungrateful." I put a roof over her head. "You took money from a minor's account," I said, holding up printed copies, "without consent, and you never repaid it." The pastor stepped forward. "Rick, is this accurate?" He looked smaller now, not powerful, not commanding, cornered. Mom stood up beside me. "He told me it was temporary," she said quietly. "He told me she owed him." The silence that followed was heavier than anything I'd ever felt. Rick's image, the disciplined provider, the moral authority, crumbled in real time. People weren't whispering admiration anymore. The pastor gently asked him to step outside to discuss concerns, but everyone in that room had already seen enough. And Rick knew it. By the time we walked out that evening, the seminar was canceled. Mom didn't speak during the drive home, but when we pulled into the driveway, she turned to me. "I should have protected you." I swallowed the lump in my throat. It's not too late. Inside, Rick was pacing like a trapped animal. He started shouting the second we walked in about embarrassment, betrayal, disrespect. But something had changed. Mom didn't shrink. "You will not raise your voice at her," she said firmly. He stared at her, stunned, because the control he built his identity on was gone. And for the first time since he moved into our lives, Rick wasn't the one standing tall. I was. The days after the seminar were quiet but not peaceful. Rick tried damage control. He told neighbors it was a misunderstanding. He told church members I was emotional. He even tried to convince Mom that I had manipulated the presentation. But truth doesn't shrink once it's exposed. The pastor requested a private meeting. 2 church elders attended. Rick couldn't twist numbers in a room full of documentation. The withdrawal records were real. The debt was real. The lies were real. His position in the church leadership was quietly revoked. And that was only the beginning. Mom did something I never expected. She asked him to leave. At first, he laughed like it was impossible, like she didn't have the strength. But strength isn't loud. It's steady. "You took from my daughter," she said. "You don't get to lead this house anymore." Within 2 weeks, Rick was sleeping at his brother's place. Within a month, Mom filed for separation. He sent me one last text. "You destroyed this family." I stared at it for a long time before replying. "No, I stopped you from destroying me." Then I blocked his number. With him gone, The house felt different, lighter, quieter, in a way that felt safe instead of tense. Mom picked up extra shifts. I continued working at the bookstore, and when I showed her my university acceptance letter again, she didn't look afraid. She looked proud. "I'll help however I can," she said. This time, I didn't need rescuing, but I accepted her support anyway. 3 months later, I moved into a small dorm room 2 hours away. It wasn't fancy. The furniture was scratched. The mattress was thin. It was perfect. On move-in day, Mom hugged me tightly. "You fought for yourself," she whispered. "No, I built myself." Rick believed control was power. He believed money meant ownership. He believed fear meant respect. He was wrong. Power is preparation. Ownership is self-worth. Respect is earned. He tried to cage my future, convinced I'd stay small under his rules. Instead, I exposed him. I protected my mother, and I walked away stronger than he ever imagined. Rick wanted me grounded. He forgot something important. You can't ground a woman who has already learned how to rise.